Alright, I just wanted to make a final outcome video on this snapper since the last video I made. So, what's been done since completion? Seat was repainted black, so that looks a lot better. Gas tank, which I already went over, is situated. It works well. Like I said, I added that piece of tubing to prevent vapor lock. I painted it black to make it match. Also, the gas leak it had, I think it fixed itself. It hasn't been leaking. Only thing I've noticed now is a little bit of saturation around the bowl, so probably could use a new bowl gasket. But as far as actual leaking is concerned, after I test mode with it, it seems to have corrected itself. What else? Oh yeah, it's now 12 horsepower, like it's supposed to be, because that's what it actually is. What else? Excuse me. I already mentioned the spaghetti of wire I got rid of. I did go under this cover. I cleaned it out. It was filled with grass and looked like maybe a mouse nest or something. Clean that out. Unplug the wires from the switch so there's no more, remnants of wiring there. I plasti welded this shield. Came out pretty good. Probably could have did a little bit better, but it's still far better than it was, so that's good. The blade, as I mentioned, is still brand new. I'm gonna have to get that red paint off of there. Oh yeah, I corrected the brake issue. I had to come up front here, loosen these, and bring both pieces of cable closer together so that when you go to step on the brake, it stops, and when it's in parking brake, it doesn't move. I believe originally when I fixed it, you couldn't even try to push it when it was in park. Now, if I put it in park and do it, I think you can still roll it. But when you put it in park with the machine on, it stops. It will not move. I touched up the red paint in a few areas that needed it, like the foot pedals, a couple other spots. Most of it came out decent. On this deck here, when I went to paint it, it started to kind of like bubble a little, which is odd because I washed it first and then it still did it. You can kind of still see a little bit of remnants of it. I might go over it one more time to kind of smoothen it out. I think that the reason it's doing that is because of these new stupid Rust-Oleum paint cans with the 3 nozzles. I think it has something to do with that. I had it in 2. I think I put it in 3, and then it was starting to get a little bit better. But when I went to Home Depot, the representative from Rust-Oleum was there, and he asked me what I thought about these cans. I told him I didn't like them. Multiple reasons why. 1, they're more expensive. 2, when they clog, that's it. You can't just pop another cap on and make it work. 3, they got rid of certain colors when they brought this line in, okay? Because like at Lowe's, they used to have the farm and implement colors. John Deere green, John Deere yellow, Troy-Bilt red. A couple other colors. They did away with that. So, to me, they should have just stuck with the traditional paint can that they've been using for 20 years, like this. Should have just stuck with this. This worked fine. If this clogged, all you had to do was take another nozzle from another paint can and you were good. Now, on those other ones, when they clog, you're pretty much screwed. So I don't like them. So I think that's what caused that. But overall, it came out good. Reverse, when I mow with it, it started to work better in gear. So I think it just needed to be run through its paces. Reverse is set up where you have to hold it when it's in reverse. It's just for safety. They want you to hold that thing in reverse when you're going in reverse to kind of look behind you. That's the way they had it. Forward gears all work good. What else? Aired up the tires properly, which definitely made a difference. And here she is. So, besides the fact it was missing the fuel tank, which I was able to overcome, it's a good working snapper now. A 12 horsepower, 28-inch cut. And the engine definitely is original because it's got this dealer tag here and the same dealer tag up front. So that is the original engine, which was rated as a 9. It's really a 12, 465cc. I already went over that. Like I said, the gas tank and the bracket online would have been about $120. Trying to find it was a pain, so I did that. It works fine. Older snappers have the tank on the side. That's fine. 1 gallon capacity, that's more than enough for a machine this size. It steers good. Like I already mentioned, somebody had fabricated in a very sloppy manner a bar that was bolted to the front of this. It was used for towing, and I know now for a fact that it was. And before I get to that, down here is where the detacher attachment would hook, down here. So that bar had nothing to do with any factory stock attachment. The other reason I know they were towing with it was these back bars had been snapped. So they were towing with this thing. You're not really supposed to be towing with these. These don't have normal transmissions. It's just a friction disc. So you're gonna wear that friction disc out far faster if you're trying to tow with it. They're not meant to really tow. I mean, they made like a tow behind wagon that Snapper made, and like a leaf collector and a couple other things. But whatever they were trying to pull or pulling heavier things, you're gonna wear out your friction disc. Besides snapping the bagger bars and also the service bar. There's service bars when you go to put it in the upright position to work under there. And then they had one up front. So that's what that was. Oil's fresh. Gas is fresh. Air filter's clean. Spark plug's good. That's it. Good old flathead engine. Reliable. It smokes a little bit sometimes when you first start it up. And also when you first engage the deck. It'll put out a puff of smoke. So that's saying that, yeah, okay, it's a little bit worn, but not terribly, because it's not smoking constantly. It's only doing it occasionally on startup, not always. And sometimes when you go to put the deck on at first, because that shock, that extra work that's being put under. Other than that, or I just don't have the carburetor adjusted perfectly, but I doubt it. And as I already mentioned, the original muffler I removed, put this one on. It's working fine, because the original one would have probably caused problems with this fuel line, and it probably would have cleared this, but with the fuel line being that close, I would have had to have a whole deflector for that. So that's good the way it is. It's got its stock carburetor like it's supposed to now. I already mentioned I cleaned up these nuts and bolts at the proper size. What else? The cable was the biggest pain to fix. That was a pain. And I knew it was gonna be if I had to mess with it, but I had to, just to make sure it stopped completely. So somebody had a piece of wire running through here. I put a regular pin like it's supposed to. So it was never electric start. It was always recoil only, which is fine. If you really wanted to add the electric start, the battery would go here. I think there's a piece that hangs out, as you can see, these little holes for the battery to hold in even better. You can add a stator, you can add a flywheel with the teeth. You can add a solenoid. You can run the negative to any ground and the positive to, well, actually, no. Okay, so the stator, that's an interesting thing. So the stator, well, anyway, it can be done. Battery, starter, flywheel with the teeth, and then you would need a key switch with the third position to turn it. And then a wire would run to the solenoid, to the one post, to give it juice when you go to start it. You would run the negative of the battery to, I guess, the negative to the solenoid, and the positive to the battery to the positive of the solenoid, and then the positive of the solenoid to the starter. So, or you could just, yeah, I think that's about it. And then the stator, that's the only thing I'm trying to think of real quick while I'm talking about this. The stator to charge the battery would hook to something on the horn. What would it hook to? I'm getting mixed up now. I forget. I honestly forget right now. But anyway, it would have the stator. The stator would plug in somewhere, and then that would eventually run to the battery and charge the battery. So if you wanted to add a starter, you could. You really don't need it. Didn't have it, never had it. So it is what it is. So I'm sure when I think about it, I'll come up with the answer on what it is that the one other component is that you need to hook the stator to run it to the battery. So I don't know. That's odd. I can't think of that right now. All right, so I'll start it up real quick. I'll put the blades on. I'm not going to try to drive it right now because this paint is still fresh. I already took photos and took video, but this paint is still curing. Because every time I put for the demo video, I put my foot on that pedal. Of course, the paint came off in a couple spots. I had to touch it up. I don't want to have to go through that again. So I'll start it up. But you see it run. And technically, I can put it in gear without even being on it. And put the blades on without being on it. So, and the only safety switch that I saw was up under there. I didn't see one running to the brake anywhere. I didn't see one running under the seat. There wasn't one there. So it was just under the deck. So whatever the safeties were, it was all incorporated under here. Which, it talks about the brake pedal. So, a wire from somewhere over here probably may have ran to this, and then also to the shifter, which again, I don't see wiring for that. And although, a bunch of that wire, it's right here, by the way, what was left of it. This is probably like the control module. This, let's see. This black would have probably been to the engine ground, although it has a red too, so I'm not sure. And then, see, these two plugs don't hook up to each other. So there was plugs missing. There was stuff cut. So most likely shifter and blade were the two main things. And I guess the shifter would know that your brake wasn't on. So, but again, you've got the blade brake pedal for safety and the key right there. So between those two things, you should be good. And again, I'm not the one that did it, so I'm not liable for it. It was already like that. All I did was remove the spaghetti that somebody else had already chopped up. Like I said, I don't advocate it, but when it's that far gone, I'm not going to sit there and waste 2 hours trying to figure out, where does this go? What's this do? Blah, blah, blah. No. The older machines were just like this. You started them, you could put them in gear, they would move on their own. They didn't have this blade pedal, so you could turn them blades on and it would stay on. So it's just like a retro machine now. Okay, let's start her up real quick. So front choke. Probably up. See, I tend to forget that every time. Probably don't even need choke now. What's strong? There's your idle. Move up to fast immediately, it smokes a tiny bit. Now if you do it slowly, right? If you give the engine time to brace for it, it doesn't smoke. Now watch. So when it gets that immediate shock, it smokes a tiny bit, but it's still got a long ways to go. I can put it in gear. Oh yeah, I can. Ready? Wow. She's pretty fast. So she's got a long ways to go. Yeah, I mean, eventually you can use probably new piston rings. It says power built, doesn't say IC, so it's probably an aluminum bore engine. So it's probably a little bit worn. But I mean, you know, as long as you monitor the oil every once in a while, you'll be fine for a long time still. Because like, even my machine, it doesn't even smoke, but it's starting to consume oil. So, but when these engines, you know, they're getting older, you just gotta, you know, just be a little bit more set, you know, just care for them a little better. So I'll just, you know, check the oil once in a while or right before you mow. You know, just make sure it didn't get low. When I first got it, yeah, it's on the money still. So doesn't smell like gas, so it's not leaking. Because I left it on all night to make sure it wasn't leaking. Head wasn't blocked up, didn't get past the rings. So the only thing I noticed was that the bowl was a little wet, which that takes time. So it basically cured itself from when it was originally leaking that night. And I was saying how I put the fuel shut-off valve still there. If you want, you know, you could still just shut it off, and then you're not gonna have to worry about it at all. But she's good. She's good to go. See, I put my finger right there. So yeah, it's still a little wet, but that was it. I wasn't gonna spend another day on this. It was time. It was Labor Day week, and I still worked. I plan on relaxing. I got one more thing I gotta do. Box up a transaxle that I sold on eBay and ship. So I may have to go find one. Hopefully I have one already. If not, I have to go find one. But I usually get lucky in one spot and find those size boxes. So I got one more thing to do today, and then we're done. We're good. So there she is. From what she was to what she is now, I'd say it's 100% better. But you know, it wasn't too bad. Ultimately, I think the reason they stopped using it was the coil went bad. It lost spark, and that's when they gave up on it. Right after they put a brand new blade on, whatever else, they just gave up on it. Why they took the tank, I don't know. And the only thing that's missing besides the stock tank is those bars. So if someone wants to put a bagger on it, they're just going to have to get those bars. It's not the end of the world. Besides that, good machine. So, all right, guys. That's the end result on that one. It came out good. I'm happy with it. I'm going to list it for 6. See what happens. Okay. Later.